Those of us who cooked this past week understand the value of being prepared. There's so many variables to consider. To name a few, the number of people who are being served, the number of people cooking, the selection of food, who's bringing what, and which items can be prepared in advance. The Wednesday afternoon text from my brother advising that my sister was sick and wouldn't be able to join us asked what we should do about the sweet potatoes she was preparing. Point. Even when we're prepared, the unexpected happens. Now, would we be hungry if we didn't have sweet potatoes? No. Yet, was it worth it to ensure they were there? Kudos to my gracious husband, Stan, who offered to drive me to the store to pick up sweet potatoes. I consciously tried to stay out of grocery stores the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. For us, it makes total sense to make sure the sweet potatoes are there because sweet potatoes are part of our family's Thanksgiving ritual. Apparently, the cold has affected the ability of the application to advance without manual help. But anyway, perhaps today's invitation is to consider internalizing Advent. You know, a ritual is a repeated behavior that alters the internal or the external state of an individual, group, or environment. So as we stand freezing on the threshold of Advent, let's dissect the word spiritual. And remember the two words contained within it: spirit and ritual. Let's open ourselves to the Spirit. And doing that at least caused me to ask the question, what if there's a better story that doesn't leave that bad taste in your mouth after swallowing it, right? Better than the traditional interpretation of the parable of the wise and foolish virgins that we heard in today's gospel. You know, where all 10 fall asleep, the wise refuse to share their oil, and 5 don't get in to the party. The parable concludes with a warning sign flashing, stay awake, because we never know when the end time is coming. Now, I suspect I am not the only one offended by behavior like this that feels inconsistent with the way of Jesus. Point, spiritual preparedness. Kind of like turning on the heat to be prepared. Point, spiritual preparedness cannot be borrowed at the last minute. It cannot be borrowed. It's something that must be cultivated personally and cannot be shared. Maybe we can arrive at an alternative interpretation focused on how we live now, and that is consistent with a belief that we belong to each other. Borrowing language from Father Greg Boyle at Homeboy Industries. Imagine the reign of love or the kinship of God like a wedding. Let's ask, Does it make sense that those who lack sufficient resources are excluded from the feast? No. Does it make sense that the Holy One is likened to a groom who bars the door? No. What resonates more? How about that true kinship? Kinship with God is like a wedding where resources are shared. All are invited and all are welcome. Rather than being focused only on the future as we prepare for the second coming, let's examine how we live every day. How might we live our faith in the present, being watchful of opportunities to act with love and justice, value community, and extend support to each other? As we adjust to hours of increased darkness, reflect on how we might be light in the metaphysical or metaphorical darkness of our violent and distressing lives. How might each of us personally prepare to celebrate the birthday of Jesus this year? One idea, I think, is embedded in the final line of the second reading that Anne would proclaim today. And Joan Chittister wrote, "The real Christmas gift, for which Advent is the process, is learning to hum hope, learning to dance the divine." How might we accelerate this internal transformation? Learning to hum hope is an inside job, persistently embodying a joyful, spiritual, and mindful life. To dance the divine is a metaphor for engaged living, focused on something greater than ourselves. Look around. Give yourself the gift of learning to hum hope and dance the divine. My friends, welcome to Advent.